You're going to have a lot of software written to facilitate cloud computing, the whole cloud computing architecture. It'll definitely allow the whole globalization of smaller software houses, whereby they now have a global market to deliver software as a service, yeah? And I think a lot of jobs will be created in that, but it'll become competitive as a result of it, yeah? Very competitive. In our market, infrastructure as a service, I think it has to be proven. I'm worried that there's a scenario where there's job creation, but a lot of that job creation is job replacement. Okay, so I've yet to be convinced of the potential on an overall scale of how much incremental employment cloud would imply or cloud would deliver. Now, from an Irish perspective, there's an opportunity to take advantage of that, to actually move resources to Ireland, to create Ireland as a cloud hub almost. Obviously, there's a huge amount of advantages to being located in Ireland: good education, good workforce, English speaking, good infrastructure, and obviously there's various tax benefits being locating here, which, you know, if the EU get their way, maybe there won't be in time to come, but I can't see it changing. So I think there is a time frame in which the government needs to act, and I think it is acting. I think the IDA is acting to promote Ireland as a central cloud hub. So do I think the cloud delivers additional employment? There's lots of centralization, and when you get centralization of technologies, yeah, where typically if I'm supporting 100 disparate customers, I'll require roughly 20-25 staff to do it. If I'm supporting those 100 customers centrally, I don't require 25 staff to do it, I require possibly half that. Okay, so from a unique individual basis, you can see where once you centralize something, there's a potential to lose jobs. However, from a global perspective, if Ireland play their cards right, and if they continue to be as proactive as they are, I think we can attract employment to Ireland to get a bigger share of the pie, for want of a better word. The analogy I came up with when I've been asked this is, when you see a bank robbery happening and you know the money is in the bank, it doesn't mean that the following day you turn around and take your money out and put it underneath your mattress, okay? There's security around the fact that the bank knows how to protect your money, yeah? Now, I don't know how relevant that is anymore, but in a traditional environment, there's security around knowing how a bank can protect your money. Your data is more secure in a data center. Physically, straight away, you've got higher levels of security. In relation to technologies that are used to protect this data, it's vastly more likely than the security standards within a data center and within a cloud environment are higher than an individual company can afford itself. However, we do come from a situation whereby when an owner or director or an IT owner can see his IT room in the corner and see that's where his data is and knows that's where his data is held, yeah, there's a certain level of perceptual security around it. Now, there has a lot been written about where's your data being held. There are laws in the States which don't quite protect data to the same level as Irish and European data protection laws, where it's not fully protected effectively. Now, how much that would affect the standard Irish customer, I'm not too sure. At a higher level, definitely you want to ensure that your data is not seen by anybody. So from a data location perspective, just ensure you know where your data has been held. Make sure it's been held in the same jurisdiction that it's currently been held. And from an Irish perspective, that's within the EU. The laws are very similar. If, however, you go to a cloud provider who may hold this data outside the EU, well then you are opening yourselves to data protection laws that aren't as stringent as they are in your own jurisdiction. And one last comment I'll make on that. Be careful, there's certain personal information that if you hold it on people, you can't move it outside the jurisdiction in which that person sits. So there's a few things at a higher level you need to be careful of. But from a security perspective, I think all those issues will be overcome. When you hear about cloud providers being hacked or whatever, it's one in relation to the 100,000 businesses that are being hacked every day that doesn't make the news. Yeah. So at the end of the day, nothing is 100% safe, but I definitely advise customers to look at a cloud provider, make sure they've got the experience and the strength, and the data center facilities that you would expect and the expertise you would expect to manage it, and I don't see any issues. Have you ever read the definition of cloud computing that was released by the American Institute of Technology? I'm not sure, ISTL or whatever. And it's accepted as the de facto definition. But within that definition, there's 5 essential characteristics. There's 3 service models and there's 4 deployment models. That's fine. So there's 12 criteria, in theory, that you have to reach to be called a cloud. Now, I'm promising you here now that for every cloud article you've read in the paper, not a fraction of those criteria, and rightly so. Because when you come to define something as vague as the cloud, for want of a better word, which has been around for years, we've been delivering infrastructure as a service for years. We called it computing on demand. Now we're calling it cloud computing. But when you get a situation whereby something is trying to be defined so closely, it's going to happen that people are going to start coming up with their own definitions. Private cloud, in our definition, it's an environment in our data center which has dedicated infrastructure. It's a non-multi-tenancy environment. And what that means is that your networks and your servers are dedicated, that there's no one else sitting in those boxes. In a public cloud, you have a multi-tenancy environment where all the infrastructure is shared. Okay, now that's the most simple way I can explain the difference between private and public. I could go into 14 definitions, follow it, and then you could accuse me of doing the same things that everyone else is doing, confusing the whole issue. It's as simple as that. If you want a private cloud, it's your own dedicated infrastructure. You can also build a private cloud outside of the likes of us, outside of data centers. If the company is large enough and you have disparate units and you want to centralize your IT, through a virtualized shared environment, people will also call that a private in-house cloud. Okay, private in-house cloud, private cloud in a data center, and then public cloud, multi-tenancy environment where you take a small piece, you take RAM, storage, and processing power from a larger environment. That's what we would call a public cloud.